Today, I'm actually heading over to Port Huron to have my knee replacement replaced. And if there's infection in there, I'm laid up for months.
After a challenging time of healing, Doug's first outing is the annual United Deer Farmers of Michigan convention.
Now that he's made it through his first outing, he's on to switching gears and thinking about his Alaskan hunt with Blaine Anthony, the bear whisperer, and, close buddies. He's been looking forward to this for a year now, and I'm a little nervous about it.
I think I just got my first Alaskan bear.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank you for the creation of the white-tailed deer. May we grow with knowledge to preserve what you have given us as we are in amazement of this animal. May it remind us of your glory and your presence in our lives.
We pray that your Holy Spirit will guide us to be respectful of your creation
as our souls find peace
in the great outdoors. Amen.
ConQuest 200 is brought to you by Key Apparel, makers of Polar King. Rule the elements. Doug and Karen Roberts once again find themselves in a challenge. Tomorrow, Doug will be going in for knee surgery. This will create added stress for Karen and the staff at ConQuest Sends. Depending on how bad the revision knee replacement goes, he could miss out on this year's Deer Farmers Convention and his much anticipated spring bear hunt to Alaska.
I'm nervous. The thing that I'm most nervous about in this is that there may be infection in there. And if there's infection in there, I'm laid up for months. But I really don't have a choice. I've got to get a leg that's starting to work. I've got to get a knee joint that works so I can get back to doing really what I have to do. And I'm not able to do what I used to be able to do or really should be doing now. And it's putting added pressure on everybody else, especially Karen. I've tried to keep it out of my mind. Once it's done, and then the rehab starts.
While Doug is out of work, Talon and Scott will be responsible for all the deer on the farm.
We have everything covered, because at least for a week, maybe 2 weeks, I'm going to be, honestly, I'll be on pain meds, so I will be within phone service come next week, but how clear my head is going to be, I'm not quite sure. The basics, of course, perimeter, feed, water, wood burner. What it really comes down to, watch the deer. Read the deer. The deer will tell you what's wrong.
Another day on the farm.
Ironically, we're sitting in a deer blind on a team for doe culling, and you get placed with your teammates, and our teammate is an orthopedic surgeon who specializes in revisions. I think, sometimes God has an amazing sense of humor, how he puts this all together and lines us up. It's a good time to stop and take a breath and pray, okay?
I noticed that his knee was very swollen. Since I'm an orthopedic surgeon and that's, I'm used to looking at people's knees and the way they walk and stuff, I just asked him, I said, what's going on with your knee? It's noticeably larger, and I could see it right through his pants and everything. So he was telling me about how he had a knee replacement several years ago, and he was still having a lot of problems with it. Now, if you know Doug, he deals pretty well with pain. I didn't know it at the time, but now that I know him, I know this very well. So for him to be complaining about pain or swelling or anything like that, it has to be pretty significant.
I pray that you'll bless each and every one that's involved in this. we also are in suspense of knowing 100%, is there infection in that knee? Why did it go wrong? What's wrong in there? And we're really not going to know until that surgeon, Dr. Ziegler, opens it up and takes a look. In Jesus' name, amen. It's going to be good.
It will be.
It's going to be good.
So when I got into the surgery, obviously we opened the knee back up again, just like if we had done the knee replacement for the first time. We assess all of the implants, and the implants, especially this one, will go back to the other x-rays. So the implants were grossly loose. So this one right here literally came right out. I didn't have to do a lot of work. Normally we need to use a saw to cut the implant cement interface. I could just easily take a tamp and a mallet and just pop it right out. So that means that it was grossly loose. It wasn't bonded at all. The femoral component here, this part was also very loose, so that one easily came out as well. So we decided that it was the best option was just to redo the entire knee all over again.
As I look at the clock one more time, the doctor emerges and sits down and talks to me and explains to me that once he opened up that knee, it looked like coffee grounds inside that knee, full of necrotic tissue.
Coming up next, Doug is out of surgery and his long road to recovery begins. And later, the crew heads to the United Deer Farmers of Michigan convention right here on ConQuest 200. This segment was brought to you by Hancharit Chiropractic. We get your back in the game. ConQuest 200 is brought to you by Key Apparel, makers of Polar King. Rule the elements. By ConQuest Scents, makers of Evercalm and VS1. By Grizzly Coolers and United Deer Farmers of Michigan. And Armada Grain Company. And by 10 Point Crossbows. Doug Roberts' knee revision was a success. However, being discharged from the hospital was delayed due to fevers and pain.
And he seemed to be pretty comfortable. Post-op day number 1, he was actually very comfortable. I think a lot of the pain medications were still working. The block was still working, which numbs up his leg. Good news is that we fixed the problem with what we had done, and very comfortable that he was going to do well.
The first day, Doug's feeling pretty good because he's numb. So he's moving that leg around, astonishing everybody, and I'm thinking, buddy, that numbing's gonna come out. And then what? And it did. And his pain threshold is unlike any man I've ever known. The man can put up with way too much pain, and it was beyond him. It started bleeding out everywhere. The pain got out of control. Once they put him on an amputee pain regimen, they finally got it back under control. But fevers were spiking. The first 48 hours were brutal. I wouldn't wish this on anybody, I truly wouldn't.
Another thing that we found when we got in there is he had a lot of inflammatory type tissue. He had a lot of bleeding into the knee, which causes like a brownish material to form. A lot of scar tissue was formed inside of his knee. So I had to remove a lot of that as well in order to get the knee back down to the normal size.
Luckily, no infection. But having to carve out all that dead tissue means a lot of internal bleeding in that knee, a lot of internal healing, which is going to take a lot longer than we had anticipated. Now you got to remember too, Doug had this Alaskan hunt planned, so we are jockeying with time here between trade shows and him being able to go on this hunt. It was day and night regimens of ice, day and night regimens of pain medication.
With Doug on the couch for most of the month, the routine of ice and slowly reducing pain meds continued. Doug's plan was to be ready for the United Deer Farmers of Michigan convention at Soaring Eagle Resort. But there was one problem. Doug's knee swelled up with fluid, which needed to be removed immediately. Once the fluid was removed from Doug's knee, there was no looking back. He could finally feel the results of his new knee.
Once Doug got both feet under him again, there's no holding him back. And that's not up to me. I can't do it. It's an impossible. And the show must go on. We have shows coming up that he really needs to be at.
I probably talking about the show, the knee. Yeah, I'm excited. I can tell the joint is so good. It's like, oh.
And when you're fully 100%?
Oh man, I'm gonna run a marathon. Well, we're here at Soaring Eagles Casino. This is the United Deer Farmers of Michigan 2017 fundraiser convention. We just got set up here with the booth, a number of booths. This is actually one of the best showings that we've had in years as far as numbers of booths and number of people. Tonight it's all about kind of getting together and talking and catching up with old friends, playing a lot of different games that are fundraisers. A lot of gun raffles, big silent auctions. So we'll spend the night here just kind of mingling with all of the other deer farmers, and then tomorrow we'll get into the more serious business, the board meetings, and then also we have the big auction in the afternoon. Welcome to the 2017 UDFOM convention.
Coming up next, Doug Roberts spends the weekend at the United Deer Farmers of Michigan Conference. And later, he finally makes it on that much anticipated Alaska trip.
Dead. Holy smokes. Give me some of that.
This segment was brought to you by High Rack Ranch of Michigan. This week's tip from the Deer Professor is brought to you by Heat Seeker.
I'd like to introduce to you the new Heat Seeker Hot Doe Test Kit, manufactured by ConQuest Scents. The 3 steps to the Heat Seeker Test Kit is 1, apply the special solution to the test guard strip. 2, put the test guard strip in the middle of a scrape or a high active area. And 3, wait 5 minutes to see if you get a reaction that turns red for adobe and in heat. If the Heat Seeker solution is touched by estrus pheromones through the air, it activates it and it actually turns red. The solution test strip turns red. You now know with that one test that the does in your area are in heat and the rut is on where you're hunting. Hunters realize the best time to be in the woods hunting to see the biggest bucks in their area is during the rut. So there's no more guesstimating. You can define the time you want to be in the woods. You can define the time that you want to take off from work to capitalize on the time you're in the woods trying to find the mature bucks in the area that you're hunting. Here's what's in a Heat Seeker Hot Doe Test Kit. 1 bottle 1/2 ounce Heat Seeker solution, 8 test strip cards, 1 alligator clip on a wire, and 1 2-foot piece of plastic with 4 nails to pin it down to the ground. So when you want to know when the does in your area are in heat, get a Heat Seeker Hot Doe Test Kit from ConQuest Scents.
On his feet and walking around after months of physical therapy, Doug Roberts takes his first trip from home to the United Deer Farmers of Michigan convention.
7x7 main frame, and he's got 3 extra little kickers, so he's a 17 point. But not bad, a 2-year-old.
Well, you know, I get there and we set up the booth, and of course we're there to highlight Bruce, which is a phenomenal buck. I'm excited about him. But I'm like a little kid, I just got let out. And so I want to go and I want to see everybody, I want to look at everything. I could start to feel the pain and the pressure, so I would go a little bit and I would just sit down and rest and kind of get it stretched. You know, the United Deer Farmers of Michigan convention really, its purpose is to raise money to help fund testing, to find a live test for CWD. It's to fund the membership. It's to fund the legislative stuff that we do in Lansing here in Michigan. Yes, is it to try to bring in more members? Is it try to educate people on the truths of deer farming? Maybe interested in raising whitetail but aren't sure? They can come here, and it's the one time of the year that so many of us as deer farmers and elk farmers come together, and you can ask all of these questions just to kind of get together and say, hey, it's good to see you. Let's talk about the hot topics. CWD is always a hot topic. TB in Michigan is a hot topic.
Especially if you're darting.
We've got over 50% of the herd depopulated at this point, and all of those additional animals have tested negative.
There's a lot of stuff that goes on in this 2 days, but the main one is fundraising to generate dollars to fund this organization to continue it on for another year.
With the weekend complete, Doug has his sights on Alaska, a trip he's been dreaming about for a long time.
Now that he's made it through his first outing, which was the United Deer Farmers of Michigan, he's on to his Alaskan hunt. He's going to be on a boat going down the coast of Alaska with Blaine Anthony, the Bear Whisperer, and, close buddies. He's been looking forward to this for a year now.
I'm going to be able to go with Dave Simon and Dan Simon and Lou and Al Stefanko and then again Blaine Anthony. And so we have this tremendous group of people, all friends, that we get to go bear hunting, fishing in Alaska. And this will be my first time to Alaska.
Wrong species, Doug. Come on.
Well, I caught my halibut, dude. Got it.
Coming up next, Doug hunts black bears with TV host Blaine Anthony, the Bear Whisperer. You don't want to miss it. Right here on ConQuest 200.
The biggest bear ever.
ConQuest 200 is brought to you by Key Apparel, makers of Polar King, Rule the Elements. By ConQuest Scents, makers of Evercalm and VS1. By Van Beek Natural Science, and by Ray C's The Extreme Store. By VersaSkins and Herd Evolution, premium deer feed. After months of rehab, Doug Roberts is on a boat in Alaska bear hunting with Alaska Premier Sports Fishing and with TV host Blaine Anthony, the Bear Whisperer.
Biggest bear ever. I mean, you wouldn't believe the sweat I had to do dragging this bear just 20 yards over here.
Whatever.
It's interesting because you look at all of this territory and you look at the sides of these hills and you don't realize how steep, and there's bears and mountain goats and sheep. I mean, it's God's perfect creation. I mean, it's just awesome to see.
They're both the same.
The bear we were actually going after actually walked off before we could get there, and then way across the bay, oh, it's a good bear. And we watched it all evening. And it's actually getting closer towards daylight going down, and nothing was happening. I finally looked at Jeff, I said, think we can go get that bear? And he goes, let's go see. Here's where I'm proud of myself. With my knee, we went all the way around this cove, through the jagged rocks, walking the edge of the water, back up into the jagged rocks, and we come up over the edge to see this little sandbar, and the bear was still there. We made it all the way around, and beautiful bear, beautiful, heavy, big black bear, beautiful coat. Being able to physically do that after having this knee surgery and everything I'd just gone through, that made that bear hunt worthwhile. Holy smokes, that was a hike.
Yeah, it was.
Oh, are my ears ringing?
That gun is loud.
Oh my goodness. What's that?
That gun's loud.
Hey.
Oh my goodness. My whole head's ringing. I think I just got my first Alaskan bear. That's dead. Holy smokes. Give me some of that. This has been one amazing experience. This is my first time to Alaska, and actually I'm out here with Alaska Premier Sport Fishing, Travis Larson, and it's off a boat. You're on a boat the entire time, and then they take you in a dinghy and put you on bears, or at least in these little coves like we were, and they come out to the shore. The sheer beauty of the place overwhelms you. It just, you can't fathom the perfection of it.
The hunt was amazing. I've actually got to thank Dr. Corey Ziegler, for doing such a great job, but then also Brandon and the girls for the physical therapy that they put me through to get this leg in shape to actually be able to do that hunt. Any of them, had they seen the stalk that I was going to do, probably would have looked at me and went, not a good idea. When I get back home, I can pretty much be full go back into farming and doing what I love to do, and that's working with a whitetail deer.
Awesome. Now the work begins. Now I got to skin him and debone him and quarter him out. And I'm pooped.